She started screaming the moment she saw me twist the lock on my own gate. "You can't do that. This is a community entrance," she yelled, waving her phone like a weapon. I looked at her from across the fence, trying not to laugh. "Karen, this gate is on my property line. You have no right to walk through it." But she wasn't listening. She stormed toward me, dragging her teenage son along, her voice shaking with fake authority. "I'm the HOA secretary, and you're breaking code," she shouted, pointing at the sign that clearly said private driveway. Her son, barely 16, looked embarrassed, but when she whispered something in his ear, he pulled out his phone and started dialing. "Mom, are you sure?" He hesitated. "Call them," she snapped. "Tell 911 he's threatening us." My heart dropped for a second. I couldn't believe she was doing this. Over a gate. Over my own gate. Within minutes, the faint sound of sirens echoed down the street. Karen smirked, folding her arms like she had already won. "You're going to regret this," she said coldly. I stood there calm, letting her dig her own hole. She didn't know that I had everything recorded, from the surveyor's visit to the legal property map filed under my name. When the two officers arrived, she rushed toward them dramatically. "Officer, he locked the community gate and threatened my son," she cried, clutching her pearls like a movie actress. One of the officers looked at me, then at the sign again. "Sir, is this gate part of the HOA property?" Before I could answer, Karen jumped in. "Of course it is. Everyone knows it." But when the officer's radio crackled, he stepped aside, checked something on his tablet, then turned to her slowly. "Ma'am, this lot isn't part of the HOA jurisdiction. It's privately owned." Her face froze. She blinked like she hadn't heard right. That's not possible," she stuttered. I crossed my arms and smiled. "Maybe next time, Karen, check the county map before you call 911 on a gate you don't own." Her son lowered his phone quietly. For a moment, even he seemed to realize how far she had gone. But as the cops were about to leave, she suddenly shouted, "Wait. He's lying. I have proof." Then she turned, sprinting toward her car. My gut told me she wasn't done, and I was right. What she pulled out next made the officers step back in shock. It wasn't just about a gate anymore, it was about to get much darker. She came back holding a thick brown envelope, shaking with rage. "See this," she yelled, waving it like it was her ticket to victory. "This is the new HOA boundary map. It says the gate is community access. He's blocking public entry." The officers exchanged a look. One of them carefully took the papers and flipped through them. I could see the ink still glossy, like it had just been printed. I stepped closer. "Officer, if you check the county's official record, that's not a valid document." Karen's jaw tightened. "Oh, here we go again, mister. Know-it-all pretending he's some kind of lawyer," she said sarcastically. But she had no idea how close she was to the truth. Because I was a lawyer once. Not just any lawyer, I specialized in property law before retiring early after an accident ended my practice. I stayed quiet, letting the officer finish reading. He frowned. "Ma'am, this isn't a county document. This says, HOA draft proposal, not approved." Karen's face turned pale. "What? No. That's the latest version," she shouted. Her voice cracked, and her son tugged at her sleeve, whispering, "Mom, just stop." But she snatched her arm away. "No. He's manipulating everyone." She turned to me, eyes full of fury. "You think you're smart because you built your fancy fence. You don't belong here." I kept my voice calm. "Karen, I bought this land fair. And legal. You can't rewrite maps just because you want control." Then suddenly, crack, something hit my gate. Her son had thrown a rock, shouting, "You're ruining everything." The sound echoed through the neighborhood. The officers yelled, "Hey! Stop!" But Karen just stood there frozen, realizing what her rage had turned into. When one of the officers grabbed the boy's wrist, Karen screamed, "Don't touch him. He's just a kid," and pulled him back. The whole street was watching now, neighbors peeking out from their doors, recording on phones. I could feel the tension rise, and then the officer said something that flipped the whole situation. "Sir, we'll need you to come with us for questioning. Karen's accusing you of threatening her family." I blinked, stunned. "What?" I didn't even move from my spot. Karen smirked slightly, like she'd won round two. "Check his backyard," she said softly. "You'll find what he's hiding. And when the cops walked through my gate, their faces changed. One of them muttered, "What the hell is this?" I felt my stomach twist, because whatever Karen had planted there, it was bad. The officer stepped aside, his flashlight cutting through the backyard shadows. Karen stood behind the fence, smirking like a hunter waiting for her prey to fall into the trap. "There," she shouted. "You see that box near his shed? That's what I was talking about." I frowned. A wooden crate sat half buried near the fence post. It wasn't mine. I hadn't seen it before. My heart sank as one of the officers knelt and flipped it open. Inside were small plastic bags, wires, and a black device that looked, at first glance, like something dangerous. The officer's voice turned sharp. "Sir, can you explain this?" Karen gasped dramatically, clutching her chest. "I told you. He's hiding illegal stuff," she cried, her voice breaking into fake tears. The officer motioned for me to step back. "Sir, hands where I can see them." I did as told, calm on the outside but burning inside. I knew exactly what this was, a setup. Karen had gone further than ever, and now she was trying to ruin my life. The neighbors started whispering, cameras were rolling. My reputation, my property, everything was hanging by a thread. Then, suddenly, the younger officer looked closer at the crate and said, "Wait, these wires are from a security system. This looks like camera gear." He picked up a label and squinted under the flashlight. "These are marked with county evidence seal." Karen's smirk disappeared. "No, that's not possible," she shouted. I looked straight at her. "It is possible, Karen, because that equipment belonged to me before someone stole it last week." The older officer's brow furrowed. "You filed a theft report recently." I nodded. 3 days ago. Case Idaho 74-2369. You can check it." The officer stepped aside, murmuring something into his radio. Karen began pacing nervously, her voice cracking. "He's lying. He planted that himself. He's trying to trap me." But the young officer raised a hand. "Ma'am, calm down. Dispatch just confirmed, he did report stolen security gear 3 days ago." Karen froze completely. Her face turned red, her eyes darting between me and the officers. Her son whispered, terrified, "Mom, what did you do?" The street was silent except for the faint hum of the patrol car. I looked at her, calm but cold. "Karen, you should have thought twice before messing with someone who documents everything." The officer stood tall. "We'll be reviewing your camera footage, sir. And, ma'am, we'll need to talk to you down at the station." Karen tried to protest, but her words stumbled out like broken glass. "This isn't over, you'll regret this." I looked her dead in the eyes. "You're right about one thing, it's not over. But not for me." Because deep down, I knew this wasn't just about a gate anymore. Karen was hiding something much bigger, and I was about to uncover it. That night, I couldn't sleep. The image of that wooden crate wouldn't leave my mind. I knew Karen had gone to the police station for questioning, but I also knew people like her didn't stop easily. They twisted truth until it screamed. I sat on my porch with a cup of cold coffee, watching the motion sensor lights blink near my fence. Then I noticed something strange, the same car passing by my house, again and again, headlights dimmed. I stepped out quietly and caught a glimpse of the driver. It was Karen's husband, the man I'd barely seen before. He parked 2 houses down and started talking to someone through his window. I pulled out my phone and zoomed in. My camera caught a clear image, him handing over a thick envelope to a man in a dark jacket. The next morning, things escalated fast. Karen returned home like nothing had happened. She smiled at the neighbors, pretending everything was normal. But when she saw me standing in my yard, her smile faded. "You think you've won, huh?" she said softly, walking closer to the fence. "You have no idea what's coming." I didn't answer. I just hit record on my phone. She leaned in, voice low. "You think your fancy law degree makes you safe. You're playing with people who can bury you in paperwork and lawsuits till you lose this land." I stayed calm, but inside, every word burned. "Karen, I don't play dirty. But I do fight back, with truth." Her eyes flickered with fear for just a second, then she turned away. "We'll see," she said, walking off. That afternoon, I received an email from the county zoning board. "Your property is under review for code violations reported by HOA Secretary Karen Lowe." Attached were photos, doctored, edited, showing fake wiring, fake signs, even a fake dog cage near the gate. That was the moment I realized Karen wasn't working alone. She had help, inside the HOA office. But she made one mistake. She didn't know that every corner of my yard was covered by cloud-synced cameras with motion-triggered backups. I opened the footage from the night before and froze. There it was, Karen's husband sneaking into my yard at 2:13 a.m., carrying that same wooden crate. I sent the clip straight to the county investigator and my attorney friend from my old firm. Within an hour, I got a call. "Don't say a word to anyone," he said. "They just walked into a trap they built for themselves." And that night, when the unmarked police cars quietly rolled into the neighborhood, I stood at my window watching the blue lights dance across Karen's perfect lawn. Something told me this was only the beginning of her downfall. The night air felt heavy as the flashing lights reflected off every window in the street. Neighbors peeked through their curtains, whispering, filming, pretending they weren't enjoying every second. The officers surrounded Karen's house, and one of them knocked hard on her front door. Moments later, her son opened it, his eyes swollen and red. Karen appeared behind him, still in her robe, still pretending to be in control. "This is harassment," she shouted. "You can't just show up here without." The officer cut her off. "Ma'am, we have a warrant. Step aside." She froze, her lips parting slightly. Then she saw me standing across the street, watching quietly. Her confidence cracked. "You did this," she whispered, pointing at me. "You ruined everything." The officer didn't let her finish. "Karen Lowe, you are under arrest for filing false reports, falsifying evidence, and trespassing on private property." Her son started crying, begging them to stop. But Karen, still trying to act powerful, kept yelling as they handcuffed her. "You think this means you win? You're just lucky. I own this community." I spoke softly, my voice steady. "No, Karen, you never owned anything. You just tried to control what wasn't yours." They led her to the patrol car, her slippers dragging on the pavement. The same neighbors who once nodded politely at her now whispered behind their doors. For the first time, Karen had no audience, only truth staring her in the face. A week later, I got a call from the county office. The investigation had exposed not just her lies, but a chain of HOA members involved in illegal zoning deals and forged documents. Karen's husband had flipped, turning over every file she'd faked to save himself. When the news broke, my phone lit up. Neighbors thanked me. Some even apologized for believing her. But I didn't feel proud, I just felt free. That evening, I stood near the same gate that started it all. The one she said I couldn't lock. The one that now symbolized peace. I leaned on it, watching the sunset spill over the hills. My old security system blinked softly, still recording, just in case. I whispered to myself, "You don't fight people like Karen with rage. You fight them with proof." Then I smiled, knowing this was the viral line everyone would remember. She called the cops on me for locking my own gate, but in the end, it was her freedom that got locked away.